Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Great America Show. It's great to have you with us. Thanks so much for joining us today. So President Trump having an eventful week, spending some time in Washington, D.C. For the funeral of former President Jimmy Carter. Also meeting with some senators. President Trump laying out 100 executive orders that he's planning to unveil on day one, some in the first week of being back in the White House starting on January 20th. Stephen Miller, President Trump's incoming deputy chief of staff for policy, reportedly told senior senators and advisors expect massive shifts in border and immigration policy on day one. This according to reporting from Axios. Reinstating Title 42, according to multiple sources, will be one of Trump's top priorities. Title 42, which Biden dropped in 2023, gives the CDC authority to order border agents to quickly deport migrants before they can spread potential diseases. More aggressively using part of the Immigration Nationality Act 287G, which allows some state and local enforcements to assist in some duties of immigration and custom enforcement, also known as ICE. Building the border wall, constructing soft-sided facilities to hold migrants, and implementing other asylum restrictions that, of course, Joe Biden decided to take off when he came back into office and decided that the border was wide open for business and the cartels would run freely and do as they please and come in this country as they please, bring massive amounts of drugs and fentanyl, human trafficking, sex trafficking, whatever they wanted. President Joe Biden said, come on to this country. Business is open and you guys don't even have to pay taxes. Just come on in as you please. President-elect Donald Trump, for those of you who joined us yesterday for the Great America Show, I spoke with Mark Simone, and I had made a joke that I believed Senator John Fetterman was going to be the first Marxist Dem to meet with Donald Trump at the White House. Turns out I was partially correct, as we now have news that John Fetterman will meet Donald Trump, but not at the White House. He's going to be meeting him at Mar-a-Lago. When Fetterman was asked, according to CBS News, Fetterman says, quote, "That's the plan. Yes, we're going to have a conversation." So I guess I was a little bit ahead of the curve there, but they're going to apparently be meeting long before President Trump takes the Oval Office, as that meeting is expected between the two within the next week or so. Fetterman has become quite a MAGA fellow himself, being in favor of looking at America taking over Greenland. Some other policies include the border. Fetterman all of a sudden is in favor of securing our border, and I just don't know where he's been for the last 4 years. He's only decided to speak out over the last year or so. So nonetheless, it's good to have him on our side. We have to be cautiously optimistic about it, but if he starts speaking up about issues, maybe some of these other Marxist Dems who are so anti-American, so anti-America first, will also come out of the woodwork and be in favor of America first and the policies. Folks, it's a new year, and it's not getting any easier for the Marxist Dems and their mainstream media outlets. Far left Huffington Post is reportedly slashing 22% of their workforce. Out of the newsroom that employs 132 people, the Huffington editor-in-chief, Danielle Belton, has announced 30 job cuts in the weeks ahead, caused by growing challenges to our business. I can't imagine what those growing challenges are for a business that's been around for quite some time. Maybe Huffington Post, you guys should start reporting the real news. Americans are fed up. There was a referendum on November 5th. In case you guys missed it, people are tired of your fake news. People are tired of the fake narrative that you purport every single day. They're tired of it. They're not reading your news outlets anymore. They're turning to more center-balanced places like Breitbart, like the Daily Mail, who I think does an excellent job, like the Gateway Pundit, our friends over there, who do an absolutely terrific job at reporting the news. People aren't buying it anymore. They're also not tuning into MSNBC and CNN and all these other fake news outlets. They're tired of your deceit. They're tired of your lies. They're tired of you referring to a man as Hitler who is not Hitler. They're tired of it all. That's why they're turning into things like this podcast, The Great America Show, other great podcasters, Joe Rogan, Tucker Carlson, a slew of great Americans who do podcasts. They're getting their news from people like us, where we're giving you the story and letting you make the decision for yourself. We're giving you the facts and letting you make an opinion for yourself. We also give you our opinion, which is not gospel. You're free to make your own opinion, and we appreciate you doing that. We appreciate you listening to us every day and joining us and joining our guests and joining myself, where we allow you to have your own perspective, but we also give you our perspective as well. And you know what? It's America. You're free to tune into this show and free to tune out whenever you want. And the more you tune in, the more we appreciate you. And that's the way America should be. We shouldn't be tied to mainstream media outlets who brainwash us. And truthfully, that's what they've done. And we saw the shift, as I said, on November 5th, when Americans overwhelmingly went out and voted for Donald Trump. You saw the shifts in states like New York, where Donald Trump shifted over 1 million votes from the last election. You saw the shift in states like California, where he got more votes. Even saw the shift in states like Florida, which was already deep red, towards the right. There was only a few places throughout this country that went further left, and they were in places like Colorado. Now, I don't know if the legalization of certain drugs like mushrooms or some psychedelics changed that, but overall, across the country, overwhelmingly, by a margin of over 95%, Donald Trump pulled more votes than he did the first time. It was indeed too big to rig. Turning now to a new study done by the Unusual Whales, found that congressional Democrat stock portfolios spiked 31% in 2024, far outpacing the S&P 500. Congressional Democrats appeared to greatly enhance their wealth on just a salary of $174,000 a year. The study found that Democrats, on average, outperformed the S&P by 31%. The S&P performed at 24%, while Republican colleagues just slightly behind at 26%. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, among the top earning Democrat percentage-wise for stocks, spiking 142%. Wasserman Schultz is on the Environmental, Manufacturing, and Critical Minerals Subcommittee and bought shares in Hecla Mining. HL is the ticker, which peaked 45%. The Congresswoman, who also sits on the House Appropriations Subcommittee on Military Construction, just happened to buy some shares of a company called Viasat. The ticker is VSAT. It's a military company. That stock rose 41% since her purchase. Now, either she's the smartest woman alive, or she's just got a good hunch. And Wasserman Schultz shouldn't sit there for that measly $174,000 salary that she's making in Congress. It seems she should go out and open a hedge fund with great performance like that. Wasserman Schultz was not the only Democrat with the aggressive investment strategy, we'll call it. Some of the other top Democrats who performed rather well this year: Senator Ron Wyden of Oregon, 123% performance. Congressman Morgan McGarvey of Kentucky, 105%. Nancy Pelosi did a measly 70% this year. Still pretty good. Democrat Rep. Tom Suozzi, 62%. Congresswoman Kathy Manning of North Carolina, 56%. Rep. Seth Moulton from Massachusetts, 45%. And Rep. Tina Smith of New Mexico at a 44%, folks. These are the Democrats who performed. We could then go ahead and look at some Republicans. Rep. Dan Crenshaw, who's been a big name on Twitter, starting a lot of fights lately on Twitter, who says he doesn't really trade stocks. At least that's what he's telling people on Twitter. He did 61%, so doubling the S&P 500. Good for you, Congressman Crenshaw. You're another one. You shouldn't be in Congress for that $174,000 a year. You should be out starting a hedge fund, starting a private equity firm. If you're performing at 61%, that's outstanding. And you're a brilliant mind for that, sir. Senator Mitch McConnell, who can barely walk upstairs or downstairs or get from point A to point B, somehow performed at 45%. Not bad. Congressman Dean Phillips of Minnesota, 28%. Hakeem Jeffries at 8%. And Rep. Mike Kelly from Pennsylvania performing at a negative 53%. He must have not got the memo, folks, of insider trading and what you're supposed to be buying. Now, I'm not saying any of those folks who are performing at 130% were doing anything illegal, of course. They're just brilliant minds, as I said. Folks, today our guest is the great Roger Stone. It's been a little while since we spoke to him. He's our weekly guest here on the Great America Show. There's so much to talk about right here, today, right now. Roger Stone, it's great to have you back. I've been having Roger Stone withdrawals since before Christmas when we had our last show. Happy New Year to you and your family. It's always great to have you on. And here's to 2025, where I think we're going to hurt a lot more feelings, have some more fun, and continue our weekly tradition here on the show. I want to begin with first, Roger. Inauguration is just a few days away, just a little over a week away. What do you expect on day one from this Trump administration as far as executive orders, J6 pardons, maybe skipping some of the inauguration processions to get right to work?
Well, look, I really do believe that America is potentially on the cusp of a golden age. Let's call it the age of Trump. It should be, and I think will be, an unprecedented period of peace, prosperity, security, justice, and yes, law and order. Donald Trump is not a man who negotiates in public.
Yeah.
We're told formally that there's no discussions going on with the leaders in Ukraine and Russia, but we don't know that. And Trump can get either one of them on the phone whenever he needs to.
Right.
I think that he is in this particular transition, unlike 2017, he has shown a much greater level of interest in the people in the number 2, number 3, and number 4 slots in each of the major agencies. And he's looking at all these independent bodies like the FCC and the SEC and others to make sure that he has people who are America First loyalists who are committed to his agenda and qualified. So that is, I think, a very, very good sign.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm just aghast at the Biden administration. First of all, trying to get as much money out the door to Ukraine as they can before Trump can come in and start some peace process. Remember, the Biden administration has no discussions going with Russia and Ukraine and won't allow the Ukrainians to talk to them directly. But everybody agrees the killing must stop.
Yeah.
You have Biden giving out medals to people who are criminals. It's almost like he's helping to identify the perp list.
Yeah.
Hillary Clinton destroyed 33,000 emails that were under subpoena. That's a crime, but he's giving her the Medal of Freedom. Liz Cheney suborned perjury, coached witnesses behind the backs of their lawyers, for which all of which she could be sanctioned for as an attorney, destroyed evidence of her own crimes by destroying the records of the committee, suppressed testimony, enhanced videos, enhanced audios, did an extraordinarily sloppy job of creating this fake narrative of January 6th.
Yep.
You have the mainstream media trying to reassert that narrative. It is outrageous for Merrick Garland to say 5 police officers died on January 6th. That is false.
Yep.
The only 2 people who died on January 6th were Roseanne Boylan, brutally bludgeoned to death by a Capitol Hill police officer after being caught in a crush of demonstrators. And no, I'm sorry, I don't believe the autopsy that says she died of a drug overdose.
Right.
Absurd. And of course, Ashley Babbitt, the unarmed, decorated Air Force veteran who was menacing no one, but shot and killed without warning. Seems to me be a bit odd, in cold blood. So they continue to try to push this fake narrative that brilliant journalists like Dr. Darren Beatty and others have completely debunked. We understand that it was a Fedsurrection. More Americans are getting to understand that every day. But the thing about the left, and this is important, John, is it doesn't matter how debunked or disproven or discredited any of their crazy conspiracy theories are, whether it's Russian collusion or WikiLeaks collaboration or January 6th. Wait a few weeks, and they'll come back and try to repeat a failed narrative.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, for reasons I don't understand, Joe Biden is handing out pardons to hardened criminals, to vicious murderers, people who have expressed no contrition for their crimes, terrorists who have killed people. No notice to the families in these cases, which is shocking. Some of these make no sense. Why would Joe Biden pardon a Chinese national who has a giant stash of kiddie porn?
Right.
When in all honesty, if Joe Biden's going to give posthumous medals of freedom out, he should give a posthumous pardon to Marcus Garvey, the early civil rights leader, who was railroaded by the FBI because he was preaching free enterprise and self-responsibility and education
Right.
to Black Americans, and he was getting a growing following. So there's somebody who should be pardoned posthumously, as opposed to giving out, medals to Mitt Romney's father, who got the Medal of Freedom. Please.
It makes zero sense. Among you had mentioned the January 6th pardons, I think need to happen on day one. Some issues I go back and forth with the guests on these shows is some people say nonviolent only. Some people say the violent maybe, some violent, some nonviolent. The way I look at it is, Roger, and you know this better than anyone, the FBI, the Department of Justice, they overcharge. And I don't mean the FBI because they don't do the charging, but the Department of Justice overcharged so many of these people. So if someone, take, for example, the guy who put his feet up on Nancy Pelosi's desk, the FBI or the DOJ rather, maybe made this guy a violent criminal because he went into the office and he breached the office. Is he a violent criminal? Absolutely not. Are the folks from Antifa who went out and burned down buildings and police stations during the Summer of Love, are those violent criminals? They absolutely are. So how do you distinguish between violent and nonviolent when you have a Department of Justice that's known, Roger, for years to overcharge the hell out of people when there's no right to do so?
This is a decision that Donald Trump will make. I think his public comments have made it very clear that there's going to be some form of clemency coming for those charged on December 6th. He could immediately commute everyone's sentence because, John, the conditions that some of these Americans are being kept in violate the Geneva Conventions. We don't treat terrorists this badly. I mean, feces-infested cells, food spiked with cleaning criminals, chemicals, beatings, no clean running water. These are inhuman conditions that no American should find acceptable, no matter what your politics. But so the sooner that these people stop suffering, the better. The president could decide later to pardon those convicted of nonviolent crimes and just leave the convictions of those who's had their sentence commuted for violent crimes. He may choose to do that. I haven't talked to him about it. I don't know what he has in mind. But speed is important. The other thing I'd like to see, the president said he would do this when he spoke to the National Libertarian Convention. I want to see the pardon of Ross Ulbricht, who is essentially going to spend life in jail because he invented the dark web. Charging him with the fact that people on the dark web sold drugs or guns would be like charging Alexander Graham Bell for inventing the telephone because some gangster made a drug deal on the phone. And the people who did deal drugs or guns on the dark web were never prosecuted. Right. Only the guy who built this technology, who's clearly not guilty. The president has said at the Libertarian National Convention, he repeated it at the Bitcoin Convention in Miami, that he would, as one of his earliest acts, he would pardon Ross Ulbricht. I hope that I know that he is a man of his word. I look forward to that.
Yeah, the January 6th thing is one that really drives me. Every day I drive into the studio in New York City, I pass the Brooklyn Detention Center, whose house there is P. Diddy, Luigi Mangione, the man who assassinated the United Healthcare CEO, Sam Bankman-Fried, and from time to time, a January 6th I often speak to on the show, Jake Lang. The fact that all four of them are in the same facility is mind-blowing to me, and all I hear about is those conditions that you had mentioned. Enough is enough. It's time to get forward and move forward with this country and put this in the rearview mirror. So I hope to God that Donald Trump does the right thing as it pertains to those folks.
It interests me, John, that and I don't know the facts of the case, and I have not studied it. I understand the public's fascination and all the debate about Luigi Mangione, but I noticed them parading him in public.
Yeah.
I think this was Eric Adams seeking to look tough in his campaign for a pardon. But how come when they arrested me, I had leg shackles on, but Luigi, I don't know, leg shackles? I mean, This was theater and nothing but. And again, I just told you the motive. Eric Adams, who ran for mayor of New York City, is a full-throated advocate for New York being a sanctuary city, who said over and over again, illegals are welcome here, will always be welcome here, whose only real gripe with the Biden administration is they wouldn't give him millions of dollars to pay for the mess they created in New York City. But a man who put migrant shelters in stable working class neighborhoods, putting one migrant shelter next to a Catholic girls' school in Staten Island. That Eric Adams, and to say that the charges against him are politically motivated. He took $100,000, according to the indictment, he took $100,000 from Turkey. That's illegal. He gave it to straw donors to pretend it was theirs. That's illegal. He submitted it through the New York City's 8-to-1 matching fund. So he turned 100,000 into $1 million. These are serious crimes. That's not a political persecution. That's a serious crime. And now suddenly Mayor Adams is worried about the January 6th people. Funny, he didn't say that 3.5, almost 4 years ago. He didn't say a word.
Right. Yeah, you mentioned Staten Island, where I'm from, Roger. People out here are a different breed. For anyone who's tuning in from Staten Island, you know what I'm talking about. As soon as they brought that migrant facility, Roger, these people out here, and a lot of them, Roger, blue-collar workers, cops, firemen, Department of Sanitation, a lot of teachers, a lot of civil servants, Roger, they were outside that migrant facility that was, as you mentioned, a boys and girls school, a girls' school, and they were out there with flashlights, beamed them through the windows, letting you guys aren't. And they were in Staten Island for about, I'd say maybe 2 weeks. And then I think the migrants said, let's get the F out of here. These people are absolutely crazy. But
first of all, I think I salute the leadership of the Manhattan Borough President, Vito Fossella, who was an outspoken critic of these policies and fought legally to end the danger towards his constituency. Scott Bio, the artist, John Tobacco, the activist who's over there on Newsmax. These guys, Frank Morano, other Staten Island activists who protested these policies both legally and peacefully. So it is absurd to say that Eric Adams, who now suddenly is concerned about the FBI terming parents who go to school board meetings to object to the curriculum of their kids as domestic terrorists. Funny, why didn't he say anything about that 3 years ago when it happened?
Yeah, I enjoy this whole Eric Adams thing. He's kind of like one of those squealing rats that's under a bucket of fire and getting ready to break out. It's amazing to watch him see. As you mentioned, the Luigi Mangione thing, it reminds me about it. You probably never watched it, but it was a show on Showtime called Billions, where they were arresting this man for money laundering. They were bringing him in on a helicopter at that same seaport, and the DA was all there waiting ready to do a photo shoot and all that stuff. Eric Adams must have been watching a lot of television, as I'm sure we all know he does. Roger, I want to take a quick break here. When we come back, I want to take up President Trump yesterday at the Jimmy Carter funeral, sharing a word with Barack Obama, and some language experts are saying that it was a concerning conversation between the two. I also want to take up America on the world stage as we now look forward to January 20th. We're coming back with Roger Stone. He's the host of the StoneZone. Come on, stay with us. We're coming right back.
Just like all of you, I had problems sleeping. I had tried every pillow out there and nothing worked. I'd flip-flop all night, use my arm for support, and fall asleep, or I'd wake up with a sore neck or maybe a headache. Well, quality sleep comes from keeping your neck straight at night. You have to fill in that space between your head and your bed. That's why I invented MyPillow. MyPillow's patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs, and it doesn't matter if you sleep on your back, stomach, side, or any combination of all three.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night, and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get Classic King MyPillows for only $19.98. Queen size just $18.98. Standard Classic MyPillows only $14.98. That's right, only $14.98. Plus all orders $75 or more ship absolutely free.
Folks, we're back. We're talking with the great Roger Stone, the host of the StoneZone. You can catch him each and every night on Rumble, on Sundays, on the radio here in New York, but he's syndicated. You can catch him everywhere or catch him online. Roger, President Trump and Barack Hussein Obama were at Jimmy Carter's funeral yesterday, sharing a word, not really sure what they were saying. A lip-reading expert alleges that, this is from the Daily Mail, that President Trump said something along the lines of this as he read his lips. I can't talk. We have to find a quiet place sometime. This is a matter of importance, and we need to do it outside so we can deal with it certainly today. What could have been so important that made Kamala Harris turn around and cringe that Barack and President Trump were talking about?
Look, ex-presidents talk to each other as much as they may dislike each other. And the president, as I said earlier, doesn't conduct negotiations in public or conduct public business other than when he's required to. So I haven't seen this coverage yet. I've heard a little bit about it. We don't know really what was said. The UK Daily Mail, that's a source. But look, I think President Trump now fully understands Barack Obama's role in the Russian collusion hoax, that it was born in the Oval Office with Joe Biden cheering it on, not to mention Susan Rice, the National Security Advisor. John, it is the biggest dirty trick. It's the single largest abuse of power in American history. It's nothing less than the full use of the authority of the American government and the extraordinary capability of our intelligence agencies, utilizing two completely fake pieces of evidence, things they knew were fabricated, the Steele dossier, and the false claim that the DNC was the target of an online hack by Russian intelligence to try to justify the effort to remove a sitting president. John Brennan, the CIA director, was in on it. In fact, he was an early progenitor of it. James Comey lied about it before Congress, but he's secretly recording his conversations with the president. This is an absurdity. Meanwhile, Joe Biden is, handing out medals to some of the very people who ought to be worried about whether or not there's going to be, potentially some prosecution of them. I would point out to you, though, that as we saw in the Durham case, where they, instead of indicting the people that Durham's own reports show are at the top of this food chain in the Russian collusion hoax, all of whom I've just named, they charged the guy at the very bottom, a guy named Michael Sussman, who was a low-level operative in the Russian collusion hoax. That's like charging the guy who was driving the getaway car for double parking and letting the bank robbers get away. And they still couldn't get a conviction because it's the District of Columbia. So all of those who should or might be brought to justice, they know that if they're charged in D.C., they'll get a leftist activist judge. Right. They'll get an all-Democrat jury. I can tell you a lot about this. So can Mike Flynn. Yeah. So can Paul Manafort. So until you figure out, what jurisdiction and what crimes, I'm not a prosecutor. I do know that quite obviously Pam Bondi and presumably Kash Patel is going to examine all of this. Kash Patel knows more about who did what to whom because he ran the investigation into the Russian collusion hoax. That's why they fear him so much, why they don't want him to become director. But the idea of saying he's unqualified is an absurdity, just an absurdity. Then you had Dick Durbin yesterday, who's been in the Senate since 1996. He says that he's not sure Pam Bondi can separate her constitutional duties from her loyalty to Donald Trump. I'm not sure Senator Durbin can separate his constitutional obligations for advising consent from his control by Chuck Schumer and the radical left of the Democrat Party.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You couldn't have laid it out better myself. It's just so interesting to see, Roger, what President Trump has managed to do in just a short period of time since he's won that election on November 5th, not even taking office yet. But what he's managed to do to send people like Justin Trudeau into meltdown. I want to put up on the screen an image of a tale of two presidents, Roger. An image of, on the left-hand side, for everyone who's joining us on Rumble, you can see Justin Trudeau's reaction when Joe Biden walked into the funeral processions for Jimmy Carter. Head down, smirking, laughing. And then he sees President Trump walk in, and he looks like, Roger, he's wet his pants. Can't contain how scared he is of the man. It's just truly remarkable to see what he's been able to do, making Justin Trudeau, you could put it whatever you want. And the reason Justin Trudeau resigned is because he cannot fight with Donald Trump. It's a fight he's going to lose. I think we're going to see a lot more of these folks start to fall. Maybe Emmanuel Macron goes. Maybe the folks in Britain wake up a little bit. But I think it's just a domino effect, Roger, on what's going to happen on the world stage. I watch Alex Jones a lot, and he says it's coming in Australia and New Zealand, all across the board from these tyrants who tried to lock us down, who I should say successfully locked us down during COVID and have done far worse. You look at migration, gun rights, all that stuff in these countries. Is this a domino effect?
Well, the point, of course, is that all of our adversaries respect his strength. They don't respect weakness. They saw what happened in Afghanistan. They saw that Joe Biden let a Chinese spy balloon float all the way across the United States, only shooting it down after it already downloaded its intelligence computer back to Beijing, and after it was over international waters. So all they've seen from Joe Biden is weakness. Now there's a new sheriff in town. Donald Trump's not going to let the country be taken advantage of when it comes to trade or any other issue. And the policies of Justin Trudeau were the authoritarian policies of Justin Trudeau increasingly unpopular in that country. This is a rural country with a lot of gun owners, but when the government says you must register your gun, we need to know where it is and how many you own, what's that a precursor to? And stops new gun sales, essentially. When a government seizes the bank accounts and frees the bank accounts of people who are involved in nonviolent protests over COVID vaccinations. I speak of the truckers in Canada. That's heavy-footed, lead-footed authoritarianism. It's not popular in that country. Of course, their economy is not exactly thriving because they have a bad relationship with the United States. So, yes, Justin Trudeau, who I do believe probably is the illegitimate son of Fidel Castro, as we call him, he's done. I think that's abundantly clear. And he's going to, if they will just call an election in Canada, Trump might have a new prime minister with whom he can deal.
Yeah, Roger, I got to be honest with you. I like arguing with people, but if I were a world leader going up against Donald Trump, I'd probably just ignore him. I mean, who wants to deal with? He could literally ruin you in one day. I mean, the world must look at America and be jealous because of what he's able to do, the power that he possesses. It's one, Roger, and you've been around far longer than I. You've worked with Nixon, Reagan. Have you ever experienced any sort of fear and power? And I'm not saying this from the standpoint from where the Democrats want to say he's like Adolf Hitler, because he's not. I mean, it's absurd to say that. But the power that he exerts, Roger, have you ever seen anything like it working for strong, powerful men? Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan, among two of the most powerful.
He is so powerful because he says what other people think and are afraid to say. Right. Who else would have the audacity to even joke about Canada becoming a state and just being governor? Who would do that? Who would have the big picture mentality to say, well, Greenland, which has all these natural resources, which are not really being properly utilized or properly mined, might want to throw off the yoke of oppression by Denmark, which colonializes them, and perhaps we can buy it. The Louisiana Purchase was a smart move. The annexing of Alaska and Hawaii, these were smart moves by smart presidents. Trump thinks outside the box. Will it really happen? We don't know yet, but it's Trump showing that he is not a career politician. The old norms are off, and he is a man of big picture ideas.
If there's anybody who's going to do it, Roger, it is Donald J. Trump. There's nobody's mentioned of it for a very long time, since probably over 100 years, about the purchasing of Greenland. And if they don't want to sell it, we're going to have to figure out a way to get it, because as I've been saying on this show, it's either we own it, Roger, or China owns it. I
think a greater concern, in all honesty, is the Panama Canal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ronald Reagan tried to warn us that this was a mistake. Gerald Ford is basically the guy who did the negotiations. Jimmy Carter is the one who actually transferred it. It is very clear now the Panamanian government has a disproportionate amount of influence from the Chinese Communist Party. They refuse to close the Darien Gap, which is the area through which hundreds of thousands of single military-age men have entered this hemisphere in order to move north into the United States. They could become a choke point for our commerce. So Trump is right when he paraphrases Trump is right when he paraphrases Reagan as saying, we bought it, we paid for it, and it's ours. They're in violation of the agreement over which we signed it over to them. 5,800 Americans died in the construction of the Panama Canal. Trump is going to move to protect American interests there as well.
Yep. And it's something nobody's talking about, but it's been happening for quite some time now. Chinese influence down in South America and Central America, in Honduras. You go look at the the electrical facilities they're building down there to produce electric. They're taking these places out of third world countries, and it's not for free. It's at a cost. You remember the Cuban Missile Crisis, Roger, perhaps better than some. At any given moment, we could have missiles on our southern border with Mexico, with China having the influence in Mexico. People don't realize that.
Let's be very clear. A number of the military experts that I respect, like Colonel Douglas Macgregor, General Mike Flynn, Colonel Rob Maness, and others, all believe that there's a very real possibility that there are already Chinese missiles in Cuba, 90 miles from our shore. Now, they may be defensive missiles, but they're easily converted to offensive missiles. So Colonel John Mills, another one who's expressed that view. So, yes. And the Biden administration has unfrozen over $190 billion worth of assets for Iran. They've restarted their nuclear weapons development program. But given their patrons and their close relationship with China, it's entirely possible they have all the elements to build that if they don't already have it. So it's an increasingly dangerous world. Donald Trump is becoming president at exactly the right time. It is his unpredictability that kept our adversaries at bay. You notice the Russians did not invade our ally Ukraine while Trump was president.
Yeah, of course.
The Chinese were not going to move on Taiwan while Trump was president. When they saw the feckless weakness of Joe Biden and those around him, they were emboldened. As I say, we have a new world situation with a tough leader who says what he means and means what he says.
Yeah, it's sort of like peeling a Band-Aid off of a wound, and you're not really sure what's going to be underneath it. Is it going to be infected? Is it going to be healed up? And that's what we're waiting for now on January 20th when President Trump takes office again. And it's a plethora of issues, Roger. The border, as you just mentioned, missiles maybe in Cuba again, Central America. The list goes on and on and on about all the stuff that Joe Biden has managed to screw up. We're going to take one more quick break here. We're coming back with Roger Stone. Folks, stay with us.
This past year has been one of the hardest in MyPillow's history. It's because of you that we're making it through. My employees and I want to thank you for your continued support by extending our wholesale prices on classic MyPillows. Get standard classic MyPillows only $14.98. I can't believe I'm even saying that. Only $14.98. But it gets even better. Upgrade to a queen size MyPillow for just $18.98. King size only $1 more. Get my body pillows $29.98 and multi-use MyPillows for only $9.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of these wholesale prices, including my standard size MyPillow, originally $49.98, now only $14.98. Queens $18.98, Kings only $1 more. Not only that, order $75 or more, ship absolutely free. From all of us here at MyPillow, thanks America!
Folks, we're back. We're talking with Roger Stone. He's the host of the StoneZone. You can catch him each and every night on Rumble, or you can go to the StoneZone.com, get all your Roger Stone fix, books, whatever you want. I think you even have stones for sale on there. Is that right?
I do. There are stones to which I sign my name. Therefore, it's a Roger Stone. There's a reference to the white stones in the Bible that I think this is connected to. I began selling them as paperweights to raise money for my legal defense, and then nobody was buying them. And then one day, a New York magazine and the Daily Beast and some other fake news outlet made fun of me. Rolling Stone made fun of me for selling them. And, well, I sold 15,000 of them when the Stones were able to have Christmas that year.
Oh, you know what, Roger? I have a similar story. We started selling these Lou Dobbs mugs on LouDobbsShop.com. Everyone laughed at us, and we got an order one Christmas. And I had a package, I think 3,000 or 4,000 mugs during Christmas time.
You can go to StoneZone.com right now. Go to the store and you can get your Roger Stone. There's the deluxe version that's a black rock with silver signature, or there's the original white with my signature. These are meant as paperweights. Don't throw them at anybody.
I was going to order a few to leave through somebody's window, but I'll save that for another time. Roger, a new study has congressional Democrats' stock portfolios spiked 31% in 2024, far outpacing the S&P 500, which is sort of like the gold standard, I guess, that you can compare to on portfolios. When are we going to call enough of this stuff? Matt Gaetz has called out, before leaving Congress, These folks go to Congress. My Congresswoman, Nicole Malio, as George Santos calls it, Nicole Malio stock tips. People who have never had a job in their life, Roger, never had a pot to piss in, yet they go to Congress, they make $175,000 a year, and all of a sudden they're becoming millionaires. I mean, how do we level the playing field for you and I who want to trade stocks, but we don't have that insider advantage that these folks have, like Dan Crenshaw?
Let's remember that it was Harry Truman who said, "Show me a man who makes money in politics and I'll show you a crook."
Right.
Insider trading should be illegal. Senator Mark Wayne Mullen of Oklahoma, Republican, sometimes pretends to be Maga, but
Tough guy.
supported John Thune over Rick Scott, tough guy who never served, that guy, the plumber.
Well,
He's made millions in insider trading. It's a pervasive problem, and it has to be outlawed. This is really Mike Johnson. It's time for him to step up and police his own people. It's time to end the insider trading by members of Congress.
I had put a good proposition forward, just as I have with the H-1B visas. If you want to hire illegal immigrants to come work here on H-1B visas, you should have no problem. If they're harder working than Americans, you should have no problem paying a 50 to 100% tariff. Tariff works on products. They work on migrants coming to work here too. If you want to trade stocks in Congress, that's fine. Instead of the 30-day window that you have to inform us of what stock trips you made, make it that you have to inform us before you make the trade. Level the playing field for all Americans. It seems kind of simple to me. You want to make money, that's fine. Let the American people make the money as well. It's not fair for you folks to be out here making money off the backs of Americans while we're all struggling. During COVID, Roger, how many people lost their lives and businesses? As we find out now, it was all a joke. Anthony Fauci was playing a sick joke on us when he told us you had to stay 6 feet apart. He was playing a sick joke on those folks who had to close their restaurants down, who had to close down their barbershops, who had to close down their stores. We now find out, Roger, that the WHO, they're talking about a new disease out in China that's happening. It's sending an influenza across the country. WHO says there's nothing unusual as citizens report respiratory infection mayhem. This sounds awfully like December of 2021 to me, Roger.
It certainly does. The question is, the American people having been very badly burned by the misrepresentations of Dr. Fauci and his minions, will they stand for another one of these lockdowns or these mask mania or vaccinations? I think people are more deeply suspicious now. Now, not everybody, because unless you watch alternative media, you haven't got a fuller view of the carnage caused by some of the vaccinations. So I think that it is a mistake to assume that the World Economic Forum, the New World Order, the Democrat media cabal, that they are finished and just going to walk away because Donald Trump just won a sweeping victory. I still have concerns about the president's personal safety.
Yeah.
You would say that's a conspiracy theory, but they've tried twice to kill him. We have no answers to speak of about any of those would-be assassins. One of them is dead, at least the man they allege was trying to shoot the president. The second man, they seem to be in no hurry to take to trial, but he has a lot of strange activities, being indigent, being behind in his rent, being behind in his alimony payments or child support payments. Yet he has the money to travel to Ukraine, to London, to Paris, the money to build websites, recruiting militia folks, volunteers, to mercenaries, essentially, to fight in Ukraine. That seems very strange to me. How did this man get from Hawaii to North Carolina to Florida? They don't tell us that. We know Tulsi Gabbard we'd know, because they put her on a secret TSA domestic terrorist watch list, a 4-term congresswoman who's a combat veteran in both Iraq and Kuwait, who holds the rank of lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army Reserve, still serving her country. We're spying on her. She's not able to travel without them knowing everything about it. Yet the guy, Ralph, who is charged with trying to assassinate Trump, how did he get here? We have no answers. So, look, every night I pray for the safety of Donald Trump. I have to admit, I have trepidation about him standing out in front of the Capitol on that great day. and I pray for his safety every single day.
Someone, a good friend of mine, just got back from Palm Beach and was playing at his course in Palm Beach, which Trump plays at almost every day. And he brought up a good point. The day that Trump was almost assassinated there by Mr. Ryan Ruth, I believe is his name, the course was closed. So either this man studied Trump for some time and knows that he went to the course when the course was closed, or as a caddy alluded to my friend, maybe it was someone on the inside that let Donald Trump let this fellow know that Donald Trump was going to be golfing there. The other interesting thing is the hole that he had tried to get Donald Trump on was one of the only holes in the course where the tee box is right next to the street. So very interesting. And, there's been a lot of speculation that based on what we saw in Butler, Pennsylvania, with this guy getting up on the roof, Cook, so we still don't know anything about, by the way, Roger, I might mention.
No, well, we do know this, that Apple refuses to turn over his cloud records because they say it would be an invasion of his privacy, but they were happy to turn over all of my cloud records to Robert Mueller without a subpoena.
Yeah. Well, it's a double standard nonetheless. But, it's sort of interesting for me to think, and I pray to God that whoever's doing these assassination attempts, it's not part of a greater power, also known as the deep state or the government. And like you said, we're not conspiracy theorists, but based on everything we've seen over the last 10 years, Roger, is there really a way to rule out? We had a president who was set up. We had a national security advisor who was framed, going to jail until an attorney decided she was going to save his life. Is there really a way to rule out what the government is capable of doing and if they will do it?
The real question is, how can there be this many failures if it is not willful? When the local police offered twice to do a drone surveillance of the perimeter, the site where Trump's going to be in Butler, but the Secret Service says, no, don't worry about it, we'll take care of it, and then they don't. When the federal and state and local authorities are all on different radio frequencies so they can't speak to each other, that's disturbing. How could that happen? When we now know that the Secret Service and local and state police know that there's a man with a gun who's been seen with a rangefinder inside the perimeter for, I think, as long as 92 minutes, but no one informs Donald Trump's detail and he's not evacuated. I think there are too many coincidences here, too many failures for this to be all a big mistake or based on incompetence. And why is CNN there? Yeah. CNN does not cover Trump rallies, but they are there. And one news organization hires a very expensive freelance photographer who's well known in the media world. What is it they hope to get pictures of? So it's deeply, deeply troubling.
Yeah, for not for nothing, for a time of leaks, for them to keep this so tight knit. CNN, either they're like the smartest news network around, Roger, or these people have like a double hunch to be outside your house before you were arrested. I mean, it's sort of interesting. I'm no longer going to be on the lookout when I look out the window of my house for the police. I'm going to be looking for what looks like a satellite truck or a news van because, like I said, these people have some sort of what is it called? The vision, the double vision. You can see ahead.
This is really simple. I was arrested at 6:06. At 6:11, someone at CNN texts my lawyer a copy of my sealed indictment.
Yeah.
It has no court stampings or timestamp on it. It's still a sealed document. It's not a public document. If you look at the metadata tags, you have the initials of the man who wrote it, Andrew Weissman. Therefore, the man who leaked it, the de facto head of the Mueller hit squad. Now, leaking a search or arrest warrant in advance of its execution is a felony. But the judge did not care about that in my case. So the idea that CNN was there on a hunch, that they should get an award from the White House Correspondents Association for their shrewd, deductive, investigative journalism, nonsense. They were tipped off. By the way, they were outside Paul Manafort's house just before he was arrested too. How coincidental.
Roger, I pray for the day that you become a millionaire and you start making millions of dollars and can just piss on these people who've done all these bad things to you and laughed in their face, because it's truly a travesty. People don't care. People don't care to think about it. But what you've went through, what so many of you people have went through with affording lawyers. I was part of a lawsuit with Fox News where we were sued by Dominion and Smartmatic, and I saw the bills. And I only sat with lawyers. I declined prep to go sit down with these folks because I said, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to tell the truth. And there's nothing you could sit and prep me for I know what happened. I know what I said. I know what everyone else said. I don't need prep. And I saw these lawyer bills, Roger, and they were 6-figure lawyer bills. And this is without me doing any prep, trying to be a good person, save Fox some money.
I'm really not interested in revenge or retribution. I'm just interested in there being one standard of justice. So
Yes.
When James Clapper, as a general, claims that there is no metadata collection process program in place for Americans, and Edward Snowden proves that's a lie, instead of teaching ethics at Vermont College and getting a fat paycheck from CNN, Clapper clearly should be prosecuted. That's a material lie under oath,
right?
As opposed to my testimony, which there's no I made misstatements to Congress, but they're innocuous, they're immaterial. They don't hide either Russian collusion or WikiLeaks collaboration, and that information was withheld from my defense attorneys by the presiding judge at trial, completely exculpatory. Mueller concluded that he had no evidence of Russian collusion or WikiLeaks collaboration on my part, or for that matter, any other crime. So they jam you up with process crimes, in my case, to pressure me to testify against Donald Trump falsely, which I refuse to do. And that's why my pardon is different than that of Hunter Biden. I actually did nothing wrong.
Plus, there's no underlying crime, which we often speak about here on the show, for them to come after you in the first place. It's truly absurd what this country has come to, Roger, and it's a travesty. But hopefully, come January 20th, a lot of these wrongs are righted. And, I think we're all on the right side of history here, Roger, and time will tell. But we've been right about a lot so far. It doesn't seem to be going the other way. You get the last word here, Roger.
Look, I think we have to be optimistic. I guess the most important thing is I would call on everybody who's watching us to pray for the safety of Donald Trump and his family, pray for all of the key members of his incoming administration, and the best is yet to come.
I like it. I like it a lot. Roger, Happy New Year to you and your family. It's always great to have you back here with us on the Great America Show. We'll see you next week.
Folks can go to StoneZone.com. StoneZone.com. Find everything I'm up to. God bless you, John.
Thank you, Roger. We'll see you soon. Thank you, everybody, for being with us today. We appreciate you joining us here each and every day for the Great America Show. We hope you'll join us back here tomorrow, where our quest for truth, justice, and the American way continues. We'll see you back here tomorrow, same time, same place. Until then, may God bless you, may God bless America, and may God bless the great Lou Dobbs.